Welcome. This is Victor Adetibo with Master Tech Training Academy, back with our Agile Leadership Series. And today I'm talking to Tomeka and Ryan, and they're here today to discuss a brand new program that they've created. So, for those who maybe didn't get to watch our previous interview with Tomeka or our interview with Ryan, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves to us? I'll start with you, Tomeka.
Yes, so Tomeka here. I am a data analytics manager with the city of Dallas. I love everything data related, and I'm excited to be on the channel.
Wonderful, thanks. How about you, Ryan?
Yes, Ryan Green. I currently work as an analyst for Comcast. I also work as a data analytics lead for Platform Flexi. So um, handle all things analytics and looking forward to sharing knowledge with others.
Wonderful. So, the two of you had the audacity to create a data program to help upskill people who maybe are in technology or maybe who are transitioning from a different career field into technology. What was it that made you guys even want to approach such a task as creating a course, creating a curriculum, and being instructors for it? We'll start with Ryan this time.
Um,
Yeah, not all at
yeah,
once.
sure. Um, yeah, I think first of all, Tamika's a great professional, and um, we both have had experience, um, working as data professionals. First, we both have taken boot camps um, that has taught us a skill that has allowed us to be successful in this career, and then we both had good working experience
Hmm.
across different industries and different experiences, and over time there comes a point where you're learning the material, you're implementing it, and then you kind of pick your head up and you start to, or at least for me, started to understand that, okay, there is knowledge to be shared and there's a lot of benefit that a lot of people can really gain in just like either way of life or learning how to analyze data to help them be successful in their career. Um,
Hmm.
so when we think about our experience in learning and then the experience we've had on the job, um, there's a lot of knowledge and experience that is very hard to gain for anybody who hasn't worked with data. So thinking of creating a program that can teach people these skills helps us to reinforce the things that we know as well as spread the knowledge to other people who are also interested in the field may not know how to get started, but at least we give them a solid foundation on skills that they can continue to build on as they, um, continue to want to learn within the field. So, you have to start somewhere, and this is our start with starting a program. And the goal is to continue to grow based on customer feedback, based on how users are interacting with us, based on alumni, and we really just want to be able to spread the wealth of knowledge that is available through data curriculum.
Wonderful. And how about you, Tamika? What was it that made you want to kind of strike out and create a curriculum of your own and start instructing students on the topic of data?
So, along the lines of what Ryan was saying, coming from just various backgrounds from the federal government, work with FEMA, also the census, and even some education experience working with the local school district here, I realized that a lot of decisions driving what goes on, whether it's in the classroom, disaster management, and even that goes into how we count people for the census, is driven by data, right?
Hmm.
I remember when I worked for the census, that was really, I had never filled out a census form before. Didn't really know much about the industry. I just knew they took the census every 10 years. And then I was working for the census and I realized the data that we were collecting, how decisions were made based on it, not just on the federal level, but also on the local level, down to education fund dollars, and even the technology that the census was using. Like they didn't issue out computers; we had phones, and the app that they were using were just so advanced to where it knew how many units were in an apartment building when enumerators would knock on the door, and they
Okay.
would register them at that apartment building at that unit when they were in the vicinity of it. And that is a data driven product, right? For
Mm-hmm.
us to be able to take all that data and put it into an app so that someone can have a phone, an iPhone, stand at an apartment door. I am at that apartment door. Let me start counting these people. So that really like piqued my interest in data drives, like, what is it? They say it's the gold of the 21st century. If like companies are making mass decisions with data, Facebook, Instagram, all the big companies that we use online, they're making, like, they're driving our purchases. So I was always interested in how data happens on the public level, how education dollars are, funded, what's going on in the city and local government. And surprisingly, in these fields, like, data is new. A lot of places, a lot of like public places don't even know how they use their data. So when I decided that, hey, when Ryan and I got together, I'm like, this is a field that is this wide open. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the big corporations to work for, but there are school districts, there, your local community, they all need folks that know and understand data. So even if we can just, people that are working with it, they may not know the goal that they have, even if we can like show them, hey, look, this is what you can do with the data that you have. These are the informed decisions that you can come up with. So I was excited to kind of dive into this, take people and say, this is not a big like beast, right? You can just start with Excel. And that's what Ryan and I got together to do.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's funny that you mentioned the census because I can remember, man, it's had to be at least two censuses ago. You said they do them every 10 years?
Yes.
So it's had to be at least 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. But I can remember them sending the census physical packets in the mail that we had to fill out, or people going door to door. Like if you didn't send it back within a specific time,
Mm-hmm.
people going door to door with the clipboard, like checking off boxes. So it's so cool to think that, and I mean, I never even considered it, but yeah, using geolocation and data and like just using like the information from like Google Maps and all of the different addresses and just kind of the way technology has evolved in the last 20 years is definitely a huge driving factor in the way the government probably does a lot of things, not just the census. So that's an
Mm-hmm.
interesting perspective to look at it from. Let me ask you this question. So, how long did it take the two of you to create this curriculum?
I can go first. I think right now we're coming up. Is it a year, Ryan? Kind of a year.
Yeah,
I believe about a
it's been a
year.
year in development.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And
and
so,
that's from.
go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna add that's from like idea generation to
Hmm.
like mapping out what we think it's gonna look like to actually creating the content. You
Hmm.
know, developing plans around marketing. So it's a full endeavor, but because we want it to be done so right and we care so much about the value that people can gain from the experience, we want to make sure that we are very, you know, particular about how this is set up and
Sure.
structured.
So, based on the curriculum that exists in the course right now, um, what I guess inputs did you guys use to help guide you on what needed to be included in the course?
Yeah, maybe I can start, Tamika, with this. Um, Really, we really just wanted to take a look at the overall analytics process and
Hmm.
not necessarily a tool when it comes to learning like data or learning
Hmm.
like how to interact with analytics. Um, the exciting thing about data is that there's a new tool to explore, learn every day if you really wanted to.
Hmm.
Um, but what really is important when it comes to data is understanding the concepts that one needs to grasp if you're going to be a good analyst, engineer, like project manager using data. Um, so I really want to come at it from that approach and think about like as an analyst or a data professional, what are concepts that you need to understand about collecting data, understanding how the data is formatted,
Hmm.
what tools you can use to transform your data if you need to. What are some examples of those, like in the real life? How is data used, like in projects and practical applications? How is it used in business? Um, and throughout that process, we're teaching the concept, but also using a tool to say,
Hmm.
here is one way that you can do it, but here are other ways or other options that you can also use. And each specific tool has, its pros and cons, but it's up to you as an analyst to decide what that is for you, your business, what's the value add, and um, how you would want to implement this like in the day-to-day life. So that's how we kind of came up with the topics. And this isn't just like a set in stone thing. You know, technology and data is a ever-changing field.
Sure.
So the idea is that as we continue to learn, continue to think about the topics that we want to add, that add value to people entering.
Yeah. Good. Good. Ryan, you mentioned the fact that you wanted to focus on right more the process and kind of the way of thinking around data versus focusing on the tools, because there are dozens of tools that people can use when parsing or displaying or just going through data. Is there and I think that's great, right? It's great to have a fundamental understanding of looking at data, analyzing data, and understanding like just trends from looking at data. um However, when it comes like to the practical application and actually going into an organization and using maybe whatever tool the organization does have, is there a portion of the curriculum that you guys start looking at, okay, now we're taking the data either into Excel or into some other sort of tool to look at the data and get a little bit more granular with maybe what the day to day of a data analyst would be? And I'll give that to Tomeka.
So yeah, so just as Ryan spoke about, we're focusing on the concepts. In the beginning, you have to kind of get the concepts down because whether you're using Excel, which a lot of small organizations are still really Excel based,
Hmm.
or you're using a SQL database, or you're getting into visualizing, you can visualize in Excel. You can also do visualizations, coding in Python. In the curriculum, once we kind of get through the concepts
Hmm.
of, what is data, how do we clean data, what is acceptable data, we do get into tools to use. So we do get into the SQL, right? Because SQL is where a lot of corporations and companies house their data. Well, SQL is the language used to communicate with databases, and
Hmm.
databases are used to house large amounts of data.
Hmm.
So we do get into, SQL specifically in the SQL language and how to, query a database, search for certain characteristics of the data. And then we also get into business BI tools, so business intelligence tools. Specifically, we get into Tableau, and
Hmm.
that's just more so on the visualization side. And the visualization is, your Picasso. It's what you bring to the stakeholders for them to take a look at, and it is, even though the majority of the data process is like the cleaning, it's your visualization dashboard in Tableau is the end process. So that is a specific tool that we do kind of focus on. And
Hmm.
once you get the concepts down, a lot of these tools, it's like if you know how to drive a truck, you can drive a car. If you know how to drive a car, you can drive, I don't know, a
SUV,
minivan, right?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, SUV. So
Hmm.
it's like once you get the concepts down, you leave use one specific tool, you should be able to, pivot to different tools.
Sure, sure. That's
Yeah,
really good.
and the value add part that's used kind of like in business practice is that front end piece of Tableau where you do design, you bring it to a stakeholder, you talk about it, you ask what questions about the visualization, like does this help answer the initial question that the stakeholder came to me about? If not, what are some things that we're looking to see? And that's
Hmm.
where kind of the dance happens between a developer and a stakeholder. So throughout the course, we want to encourage the students to think really about what is a question that we're trying to ask or trying to answer by creating a visualization. And once that visualization is created, like
Hmm.
can we explain that to the stakeholder that helps them answer their business need to to either improve operations, finances, or whatever their goal was in the first place.
Perfect. So it sounds like you guys just aren't focused on the theory, but the actual like practical application and how students who complete the course are able to take this information and take this experience and go into the job force and and immediately start working kind of in these roles. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And that's mainly because even when you're going into the specific job field, you can have, like, knowing the technical piece is half of the battle. It's knowing how to tell the story of the data and your findings to a stakeholder who may not be data savvy.
Hmm.
And so you can't go into a room talking to them, well, I've learned this from the standard deviation of this. You have to be able to explain something in layman's term to them. So we do also want to have that, like, the practical piece of it, where the students are kind of hands on and solving a problem, and they can also talk about the solution to the problem, visualize it, as well as the steps that got them to the solution. And
Hmm.
that is half of the battle in this field, is being able to, relay what your findings are and to kind of bring it down to layman's terms, depending on who your audience is.
Perfect. Let me ask you this question: when students graduate, will they have like a portfolio of projects that they'll be able to show and to potential employers, or is this just going to be something that they could potentially just put on their resume as, completed this course, I know how to do these things, or do they have like something tangible that they can walk away with?
You want to take that one, Ryan?
Yeah, sure. So, throughout the course, the goal that we're setting at the beginning is that the concepts and tools that we're introducing throughout the curriculum is leading to overall capstone project. So throughout each lesson, we'll be introducing, like, a new concept that they'll learn, but uh, we'll continue to reinforce at the end of each lesson, A, that they understand what we just talked about, and then B, like, as you think about completing your capstone project, can you implement this concept and or tool into your project? If so, how do you do that? And at the end of the project, we'll have presentations for that capstone project, and with the work that we'll be doing from week to week, along with the capstone project, they'll have enough, like, to start off with a portfolio of saying that I have a baseline understanding of how to do these things,
Hmm.
but to really, like, I guess, have a working document and continue to grow on those skills, it'd be important to continue to build on that portfolio as you continue to look for jobs within the field. So the long answer is that, but the short answer is yes, they'll have something to take to um, some employers potentially to say that they've done some work in the field.
Perfect, perfect. Let me ask you this, Ryan. And you talked a little bit about it, but like, what is the class structure going to be like? Is this going to be like self-learning for students? Is this going to be like live classes? Are there going to be like work that they have to do on their own modules, a hybrid? Like, what does the class structure look like for this program?
Sure, you want me to take this one, Tamika?
I can take
I,
it. So for the initial cohort, what we're working on is we do plan on having live sessions. We will, in those live sessions, we'll be kind of talking about a concept, go through a curriculum, and then we will have time for the students to kind of sit there and do some, like, knowledge checks to kind of check in to see
Hmm.
if they understood the concepts learned. There will be homework assignments, and I say loosely homework assignments, but these are tasks to kind of take away to also help reinforce with learning. And we can also cover those topics for the following class. So there will be live class, and that's just to kind of have that availability to kind of ask questions with a person there.
Gotcha. That's good. That's good. What would you say, Tamika, is the like average time to complete this course?
Right now, 16 weeks.
16 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Um, Let me ask this of Tamika first, and then Ryan, you can answer. What in your background, for people who don't know about your background, what in your background even qualifies either of you guys to be able to teach a course like this?
Okay. So for me, my background, I do have some background in education. It was more so middle school education. But in the data analytics space, I have also worked for another boot camp where we trained some. It was kind of a job training program, and we went through data analytics as well. And I've also been through a boot camp myself. On my day to day job, actually, as a data analytics manager, I manage a team, And it's also my job to kind of make sure that they are, I have a lot of entry level folks on my team. So with them being early career, it is my job to not only make sure that they do the projects assigned to them, but to make sure that they are taking trainings, whether that's me going out and finding out. We use Tableau, which is a business intelligence. It's a business intelligence kind of software where you visualize your data. So I make sure that they're plugged into the Tableau conferences, that they're checking those out. They're in the know about the latest techniques and everything. So I'm making my mission as their manager to also make sure that I am pouring into them so that they can continue to grow into their careers. So with that same kind of like care that I take with my team, I would like to extend that to other people to do the same. And so just kind of like with my years of experience in data analytics and also experience teaching for other boot camps and also in other fields, I feel like I'm qualified to teach this.
Wonderful. So you've been
Or
in the
rather,
boot camp.
guide.
Say it
Yes.
again, Tamika.
Been in the boot camp, taught at a boot camp, as well as manage a small team. And also, I pride myself on being responsible with kind of helping them excel as young professionals.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Tamika. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, so to probably to date, I've been working in the field in some capacity for about 5 years. I did take a boot camp when I first started in 2020 for about 26 weeks, and that introduced me to the concepts. And ever since then, I've kind of just been, I won't say climbing the ladder, but I've been like growing myself professionally in the field and have made it a hobby to the point where it's not just a job for me anymore, but it's a way that I see a path forward for me myself professionally, but also to grow others, um, to understand, like we said at the beginning, to understand how to use data to just make more informed decisions. um, so working professionally, I've had the honor of working at places like McDonald's, Home Depot, uh, Comcast, and now I have the opportunity to work with a startup, where I'm able to like lead a team and start to step into a leadership role where I can kind of bring together all of my experiences, all the side projects that I've worked on,
Mm-hmm.
the tools that I've explored, and start building a product up. And with that comes just like a breadth of knowledge that I feel like makes anybody qualified enough to share and teach others if they put the time in.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it from a perspective that like I put the time in. Um, the people that I work with and the capacities that I have, trust, judgment, trust the questions that I ask. And, that gives me a sense of confidence in myself to know that, okay, I'm on the right path. Feel like I'm doing the right things. And it's, giving me the confidence to want to continue to spread that knowledge to other people. I also did start tutoring a friend of mine we probably started officially like last November.
Mm-hmm.
We had a
You said last
conversation in
November.
September. He said, yeah, last
Okay.
November. He said
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to get into data analytics like in September. We had a conversation. And I kind of just kept it real with him and saying, it's not an easy feat. If it's something that you want to do, you kind of have to do your research, you have to put in the time. But I'm willing to sit with you for an hour a week and
Mm-hmm.
just slowly start to introduce you into like into the field, the way you need to think about the information that you have. And as of a couple of weeks ago, he's officially transitioned out of the role he was working to get out of and into something different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that basically helped him during his train of thought and wanting to just like get him in a mindset to go seek out and do what it is that you want to do. So um, like that alone
That's
just
awesome.
gives me enough to say like, okay, like there's purpose in this, and there's a way to improve people's lives.
Yeah.
If this is the way that they want to do that, then we have potential solutions, and it's not for everybody. There will
Mhm.
be like great stories. People have to like try it out and see like,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to sit in front of a computer for a couple of hours of the day and do like some self-guided work, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
um, but then you also have time to collaborate with others, and
With the
um,
community. Yeah.
communication is really key. Like you have to learn how to communicate in a succinct manner and just get your point across, and like how like explain like how you're delivering value. So um, like this just gets me excited if you can't tell about the possibilities that exist. So I'll stop there, but
Yeah.
this is fun.
So a couple of
And I wanted
questions.
to add,
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to add from with Ryan before I lost my train of thought. He's always kind of like up in me, and I want to say that actually I didn't mention, but I actually work at Flexi under Ryan. He's actually my lead, and so it's interesting because we both data analysts by training, but
Mm-hmm.
we do totally starkly kind of different things in our day to
Mm-hmm.
day like jobs, right? And so he gives me a lot of guidance with working at Flexi. And similar to like he was saying, how he's coaching a friend of his, um, he has this phrase where he says like each one teach one, right? And so I think last year is when I made the initiative to where when I'm in networking spaces or spaces where people like these, these groups, either Facebook or, Slack groups where folks are just kind of talking about technology, and when people are asking certain questions about data analytics, the field. If I see somebody is really invested or they've done their homework and they just want to have more conversations in depth, I do tell them to private message me, and I have set up time on my calendar, on my Google
Mm-hmm.
Calendar, to meet with people because sometimes that text exchange. I'm not a texter. I'm a call person. I like
Yeah, me too.
talking, so
Mm-hmm.
I can only text so much before I forget that we were texting, and I'll get back to you a couple days later. So I made it very intentional to like block out time on my personal calendar, and I would send my time blocks to people so they can schedule time with me. And I'm like, hey, if you are really serious, you want to ask a data professional questions, schedule time with me. We can carve out an hour and we can talk, come with questions. I tell people to be prepared because they need to do their own research and you need to come
Mm-hmm.
with questions. And I've had at least 3 or 4 people like actually meet with me in these networking groups that didn't know me from a can of paint but came with questions, and they really left with like a lot of insight. And so I kind of took that what he says all the time, like the each one teach one, where just offer a little bit of your time to people because you can be the difference between someone like starting the career and someone like saying, hey, I'm not going to try that, that sounds too hard, and no one's giving me insight, no one's
Yeah.
giving me details about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting to kind of make ourselves available to that and to kind of curate a course that we can kind of like organize these thoughts as opposed to having these conversations randomly with random people.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And I want to get back to that really for both of you, because it's something that both of you guys mentioned, like the personality type. But before I go there, I want to ask Ryan. You said you worked at McDonald's. What type of like data, right? Because Tomeka gave us examples of data from when she worked doing the census, right? But what type of data does an organization like McDonald's track? Like, are they looking at like how many pickles are we putting on like burgers on average, or like what? Give me some examples of some of the data that you were asked to kind of work with while you worked at McDonald's.
Yeah, so I worked alongside a software engineering team for our mobile application and our
Mm-hmm.
point of sale systems in stores. So if you walk into a McDonald's, you have the kiosk, of course, the person at the register has a computer. Um, that information is related to software releases that our software engineering team would push
Mm-hmm.
into production in the different markets and the different stores. Along with your mobile app, if you have the McDonald's mobile app and you have you're signed up for the rewards, then your account has all the information about you and all your purchases, um, and the items you like, from just whatever it is that you use the app for.
Mm-hmm.
But with each mobile app release, there are different changes that are made now. With our phones, we probably don't even like check for updates; it probably just does it automatically. But
Sure.
behind those updates is a team of software engineers that iterate. Um, in an agile method to deliver the software. So I sat on alongside that team to help them understand from release to release what were the major causes of issues with the mobile app or with the point of sale system or the kiosk. Um, what were some of our development practices that we could look to based on the data and based on the errors that we're seeing from release to release, right? How do we coach and improve the teams operationally just to help them either get better with documentation um, or fix some bugs and some lines of code. So
Mm-hmm.
I was on the side of the data for McDonald's where I was helping software engineering teams become better operationally so that they can
Sure.
deliver code faster
Gotcha.
to the market. hopefully reduce those errors over time, while they were like a maturing organization. So data can be used lots of ways in this concept. It was more like operational in nature to help teams be
Gotcha.
more effective.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you for that. So here's the other question. So both of you guys talked a little bit about personality and people needing to be willing to like take the initiative and people needing to be willing to like actually do the work to be successful in this field and like, come prepared with questions and reach out to a professional and like really have that drive and that hunger. I want to hear from each of you. Can you tell me like from a personality trait perspective or from like maybe just even just general interests, what type of person do you guys think would be successful in this class and ultimately successful in a data role?
So I think that data specifically, well, data is not no different than any other tech role in a sense that you need to be a self starter.
I think we might have lost her.
Making sure that you do your work. You are, I tell them, because I don't hover, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. Okay. Awesome. I tell this, and I also tell this to my team specifically. Like you're hired to do a job, so no one's gonna, double check your work to make sure, hold your hand, or anything like that, right?
Right.
So data specifically, because this is a part of the tech field, things change so fast, right? So I remember when I was teaching for a boot camp back in 2021, we didn't have Chat GPT, right? And so the last boot camp I taught for about a year ago, we were getting a lot of questions like, "How is Chat GPT gonna, replace my job? How's it?" I'm like, it's not gonna totally take over your job. Like people that know how to use it are going to go far, but you still need to know how to do this work. You need to know concepts. You need to know changes in this technology. And, I know in my day to day, I may talk to my team in the morning and then they're off to their work, right? I can't check in every 15 minutes or an hour to say, hey, did you do this? Hey, are you stuck on this concept? Hey, let me handhold. So the job is actually, you have to be a self starter. So in learning these skills, you have to take the initiative to kind of problem solve. And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of adults have to unlearn when coming into the tech field or data specifically is that you can't spend time kind of trying to figure out, like trying to memorize everything. Like, man, I was trying to do this calculation and I don't remember it, but I'm going to stare at the screen till I remember it.
Yeah.
You better go online. You better use Google. You better, because it's about efficiency.
Right.
It's about efficiency. There's nothing, you can't remember all this stuff. This stuff changes so fast. Documentation updates all the time. The software that we use is like Tableau, or if you use Looker or Power BI. They're always pushing changes. You can't remember all this stuff. You just need to know where to go find it. So you have to be a self starter in a sense of you're going to go do your own research and you're going to create your bank of resources to refer back to in the case that you're get stuck on something, because you can't sit there and be like, well, your manager's not going to accept. They talked to you Monday morning and they were you were given a task. You sat and sit at your computer all day Monday. Tuesday
Sure.
comes around, they check in and ask you how you did, and you're like, oh, I got stuck and I just stopped. You're the expert. We expect you to figure it out. We expect you to go find it or to, ask a senior person. But you have to be a self starter in the sense that no one is like over your shoulder watching the work that you do. And it's your job to, complete your task in your designated time or go find the resources you need to do it.
Sure.
Because you work in silos a lot of time, the majority of your day.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Jordan, what are your
honestly,
thoughts?
honestly, she kind of hit everything. Like you can't be lazy working this field. You can't make excuses. Like if you're one that makes excuses and can't take accountability, um, then it's going to be difficult, because like errors happen. Like you have to really understand like how to learn and
Hmm.
then how to like read errors, because nothing that you develop is going to be perfect on the first time. But the more you do it and the more you practice, you know, the less of the same errors you'll see. And as you start to develop and you start seeing less of the same errors and you start encountering more errors or more difficult errors that cause you to do more research and solve those problems, then that's where the growth happens. And um, as long as you kind of learn to accept the small wins in development,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that like it's an iterative process, then I think that that makes for somebody to be successful. Plus, like all the things that make it said for sure.
Perfect. Perfect. So, for someone who's just kind of getting into the data field, maybe in an entry level role, would an entry level role be like a data analyst?
It could be, yes.
Uh, yeah, could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the average salary, just kind of based on what you guys are aware of? What is the average salary of someone coming in as a entry level data analyst?
Um, so honestly, it depends on cost of living, and if we're talking COVID times versus now, and
Mm-hmm.
what data analysts were being paid then versus now is two different things.
Okay.
Um, but no,
Give me a
seriously, I
range. How about
think
that? Give me a range.
yeah, I think it's fair to say in higher education, at least based on what I know, maybe like 45,000, but you get to, somewhere else and it's maybe like 80 to 85,000. So
Mm-hmm.
depending on the place and the type of job. But Tamika, you can let me know if that aligns with what you expect to see as well.
So I think that, and I work public sector, so our salary is a little bit more transparent. But in my research, I could say my first job, I wasn't a data analyst, I was a data coordinator. So it was
Okay.
more so, it was a new role for the department. They didn't really know what it said, but if you look at the hierarchy, it was below a data analyst. And so they were making 65, and that was just with the city. And so probably going private sector, you're looking to make between, like you said, it depends on COVID prices, COVID, right? So I'm saying between entry level 65 to maybe 75 for
Mm-hmm.
your first role.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it can go up from there depending on if you are switching jobs every 2 years, like some people are doing, or you are just getting promotions at your job, or you're deciding to kind of skill level up and go from maybe a data analyst to a data scientist, which is a little bit more statistics heavy, or a data engineer. So
Mm-hmm.
for a data analyst, we can probably expect, at least in the DFW area, starting 65 on up.
Okay. So I did a search on LinkedIn for data analyst roles in the United States, and it came up
Mhm.
with around 8,683 jobs that are currently open. So it seems like there are a lot of jobs in the industry. Would you guys agree that the market is kind of like wide open?
I think that it is, and Ryan, maybe you can tell me this, but I tell people in a lot of networking groups that I'm in, a lot of folks, I know they try to concentrate on tech companies specifically. So either
Mm-hmm.
tech companies, fintech, and they're like, this is where technology is, right? So I need to be there. But they
Mm-hmm.
don't realize that, you have, like I said, school districts, you have federal agencies that are looking for data analysts, you have counties that are looking for these things, cities that are looking for these roles. So I think that there is tons of potential, and even though a role is not listed as a data analyst, it may be a data role once you kind of do
Sure.
your digging.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may know that there are tons of roles out there, and even the Department of Labor considers this field to be a very much so growing field over the next 5 years.
Yeah, Tamika makes a great point that like there are those titles of data analysts, but
Mm-hmm.
then there are roles that leverage data to be successful, like
Mm-hmm.
operations or sales.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, like, somebody can be a data analyst, but if
Not
you're
necessarily the title.
a person that knows how to use your data to
Mm-hmm.
improve your sales funnel, then that just makes you a better like salesperson at the end of the day. So, um, while the market seems wide open based on that search, there are also like a lot of applicants, so it is a very heavily saturated field. So do want to be transparent about that.
Sure.
But I do want to say, based on the skill level of like just data professionals or tech professionals in general, is that the ones who do the networking and do the work and are able to speak to their experience, and get out and meet people and talk with colleagues about different positions, are the ones who are going to find those roles that fit what they're looking for. It's going to
Gotcha.
be very difficult to convince a company that you're applying to kind of online that you're better than the next candidate because you have this on your resume because everybody doesn't have the time to do a skill assessment. And if you do get there, like how do you prove that when you're there? So um, there are ways forward within the field, but it does take like really effort once you do have the skill to prove
Sure.
you
Sure.
know what you know and can add value.
You said another interesting thing in that someone may like currently be working in a role that um, maybe isn't necessarily data related, at least on the face, but kind of adding this skill set to their toolkit, um, it would allow them to potentially leverage and move up faster in that role, just being able to work with data. Is that something that you know people or have seen happening in the industry as well?
Um, I mean, I think we need a more data literate society in general
Yeah.
for various
Mhm.
reasons. uh, I think data literacy is like a very like it's an issue that not a lot of people know about, but it affects so many. Like back to, Tomeka's worked in a public sector and she knows the way that data can be leveraged and how decisions are made based on data. Um, so whether somebody is in a data related field or not, like having the skill to know how to use the data to make decisions, I feel like is the most important thing. So sorry if that did that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Sorry.
I did. I did.
Okay.
And
Tamika, do
to
you have
Ryan's
anything to add?
point, yeah, to your point, like you said, data literacy, it's just really, I looked up the definition just to kind of make sure we had a working definition. It's
Hmm.
the ability to explore, understand, and communicate with data in meaningful ways. So you do have a lot of people, whether they are, even in education, right? My sister used to be in the classroom and now she's out of the classroom and she's teaching, she's showing teachers basically how to look at the data on their students, kind of like metrics, and make decisions from that. So you do have people that are working with data in different ways, and if they took a training to understand, data literacy, how to go beyond their understanding of what they can do with their data points, they could leverage that in their jobs, right? And they could say, hey, I took this course. I have a better understanding of this, and that. Either they can even move internally, or a job could be carved out for them. Who knows, right? Once
Hmm.
they kind of showed their company, whether it's the school district, like, hey, I can do this with the data, or hey, have we decided to like explore into this, or I've done this reporting based on, I made this dashboard, this finding. What do you guys think? And
Sure.
so that can help when people are like looking for jobs in new spaces. Sometimes you have to kind of start in your own backyard, because you can try to solve a problem where you are, and that can kind of help open doors for you to get into another job within like the company you work for or the organization that you work for.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Um, I think that's the last question that I've got. I'll go ahead and announce it now that Mansa Tech has partnered with Tomeka and Ryann to present this data course. So if you're listening to this or watching this and you know anybody or you yourself are interested in upskilling and learning how to work with data, potentially become a data analyst or any other type of role adjacent to data, you can text the word data, DATA, to the number 469 382 5890. And you will get invited to an upcoming webinar that we're planning so that you can interact with Tomeka and Ryann, ask more questions, and learn a little bit more about the curriculum as well as a role in data. And so I'll go ahead and ask each of you, do you guys have any closing thoughts for anybody who's watching and maybe considering making the pivot into technology? There are a lot of people who are interested in technology, but are like, I'm not that technical. I don't know how to code. I would never be successful in this. Like, what advice or words of encouragement would each of you give to them in closing?
I'll start. So this technology can be a very daunting word when we talk about the tech industry, and I would say that I came from a non-tech background. I do have a bachelor's degree, and it is in poli sci. So we can say what we want. It's a what was it? I remember being in college, and we used to have these stickers at our career fair that said, "Ask me what you can do with um, a humanities degree or something, right? And the kicker is nothing. But you can come from a non-technical background, and where it's a skill, right? It's You can always learn new skills. So I would consider the program not necessarily learning something new, but kind of like upskilling. And we should always be doing that in the job fields that in the job markets that the job fields that we're in. We should always be looking for another skill to learn, because let's be honest, gone are the idea of the 20-year careers anywhere. So you may think of technology as something a totally different concept, but you could be working in an organization that could use your skills, knowing data in depth and having data literacy. So just try to figure out how you can add value where you are with a new skill set, like upskilling in data analytics.
Perfect. Ryan.
Yep. And I'd say not just with data, but with anything. If you're interested in something and you're fortunate enough to have the time to try it out and see how you like it. You never know how it can change your life. Um, and if it's something that you want to pursue, then it's going to be something that you have to put the time in, and not expecting results like immediately, but
Mm-hmm.
with a dedication, like a perseverance mindset. Um, you can get to where you want to go to that you have your eyes set on, but it definitely takes some planning, some intentionality behind it. You got to hold yourself accountable. And yeah, I would encourage anybody who's interested in data, and please, reach out, ask questions. Um, like I would want everybody that I talk to to have some familiarity with data and learning, like how to use it. I'm a nerd, like at heart, so I love these conversations, and yeah, I would encourage just anybody who wants to get in, just do research and take that step forward.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Tomeka, for y'all's time. Again, if you're interested, text data to 469-382-5890. There'll be some additional information in the description below. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again. Bye bye, y'all.
Bye.